Well, it's nice to be joined by the chairman of Crowleysander, Mr. John Ball, and the new vice chairman who's been in there for a few weeks now, Mr. Charles Grant. And we're going to talk all things Crowleysander, of how things are going, of course, with what's going on with the coronavirus and how the club are being told what's happening from the EFL. I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind, first of all, Charles, because I think you were involved in the call, the video call and the conference call earlier this week. And most supporters who've been in touch with me are wanting to know what exactly came out of that. If you could give them a brief outline of what you got from the EFL in your latest chats.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, really, nothing has changed with the EFL and the position of football for the last few weeks. Of course, that doesn't mean that everybody's under the same apprehensions to what's going to happen. It's always been the case that football wanted to start again with training in the third week of May and kick a ball on the first weekend of June. Now, there's an awful lot of clubs put an awful lot of text into the mail and into the newspapers with various concerns and ideas. But fundamentally, the EFL board position hasn't changed. And John and I both support that position, which is we'll try and finish the season. And as we speak, we start playing third week of May. Start training third week of May, and we start playing the 6th of June.
For you, John, is it the uncertainty of everything at the moment is throwing everything up in the air? You know, you being the chairman, down to the last person who walks out of Crowleysander on the last minute of the day, so to speak, that nobody knows exactly where they're going.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to accept the fact that football club, after all, is a business, and it has to be run as a business. And in order to, do the kind of planning and so forth that Charles and I want to get onto with Andrew, is very much looking at where we're going, what's our future plans, etc. But if at present, and it's no criticism at all, as Charles said, of the Football League, until we get some certainty into the dialogue, then it's very difficult to plan.
It's really changed, isn't it? Do you see, both of you can, work this one between you and answer it together, that football, from what we've known it all our lives, is from the next time we kick a ball is going to be a changing industry?
Well, I think it's going to go through changes. I think the whole country is going to go through changes. The extent of those changes are, yet to be seen. So I don't think that the future of football as a sport in this country, particularly at a professional level, there'll be changes there too. Some would say, and I think there's a merit in it. There is scope for change. There is scope for improvement. What we've got to do is find a way of planning our business forward and adopting those changes that need to be made. And I think Charles would probably agree with that.
Just for you, Charles, do you see this is a horrible time for our country and a lot of other countries that's happening, but do you see some positives that can come out of this for the football industry?
Well, I think they can. I mean, I think we're going to have a bit of a reset in terms of what matters, in life. As you know, we've seen all sorts of discussions at the Premier League level, and of course that's light years away from where we are. But as you move down the leagues, the discussions which are taking place, between the clubs, I think are pretty positive on the whole. As always, discussions between the clubs get a little bit personal in terms of what's best for me, not best for you. But overall, I think those conversations are going to make football, on the whole, better than before. I mean, until we start playing again, of course, it's very difficult to know what football's going to look like anyway.
John, you've been in this position of the chairman for many, many years, and you've run your business terrifically well, and it's been hard at times, more so in the recent times, to keep that going, to sustain it, which you have been able to do. No doubt about that. There's been a lot of football clubs who are all over the place with their finances. Do you think now this is it? They have to be right, or else they won't survive.
Well, I think that's right. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think this is a good, in a strange way, this is a big opportunity for people to say, where have we gone wrong in the past, or where could we have done better? What's our plans for the future? How do we go about it? How does the business need to be run? And, all businesses go through change. Football is not sacrosanct to that. And my belief is, as Charles is saying, we've got to take up that challenge. And this is a great opportunity for people who feel that things have been difficult for them in the past. Well, fine. Let's all put a house in order.
You'll have confidence in the people that you employ in your staff that you'll be able to move on when we can get the green light. But it must be difficult where we are at the time of the year when you're looking at, Charles and John both talk about it together, about, attracting sponsors, talking to sponsors, trying to get people in, trying to get season tickets sold. It must be a hard time. Here we are in sort of the middle of April.
Well, we've got work plans, haven't we, John? I mean,
yeah.
We've worked out plans as best we can, certainly through to the sort of September, October timeframe. And of course, it's the eventual shape and size of this season and next season, which will determine, if you like, what's required from a sustainability point of view. But we've had fantastic support from season ticket holders. I mean, people are still renewing their season tickets, despite the fact that the window, the early bird window has been extended, and they're still supporting. And we still get fantastic support from our sponsors. And we have conversations going on with the likes of, particularly with Mournflake and our largest sponsors all the time. So I think people recognise the problems in their own businesses as well as the problems in the football club, and realise that the answer is for us all to work together anyway.
Here are 2 points that I think are going to make interesting replies from both of you. The supporters who will link into this will be interested as well. There's a lot of talk about wage capping, and there's a lot of talk possibly about regionalisation coming back in League One and League Two. Mull over those 2 questions and have a little of your views on that. Start with you, John.
There's always ideas that, to me, there's always ideas, things that can be considered. I think when we have suggestions, I believe we ought to have a national league if we could possibly have a national league. I'm not for regionalisation if we can not do it. That's one thing that I think that we're looking at. Wage capping, well, it's simple really. We're either going to wage cap, and everybody's going to wage cap, or you're not going to have a football club. But as Charles said earlier, the people that's been talking to the EFL, the great thing is, I think there is a realisation that things have got to change. And that's a terrific starting point, because you can build on that. So nobody's said we've got the right formula and we should carry on in the future we have in the past. It's got to change, it will change. We've got to adopt those changes, consider how they can be applied to football and to clubs. And to me, that's a wonderful opportunity. Don't let's down-cry it.
What do you make of it, Charles, on that regionalisation, wage capping?
Well, if just to finish up on what John said about wage capping, I mean, as long as I've been involved with the football club, and John has asked me to be involved with the Football League, there's been talk of, if you like, putting sensible limits on salaries. We don't so much need them at Crewe Alexandra, but as you look through the Football League, we certainly need, more realistic wage caps. Those conversations are rife now. And the real desire amongst football clubs in general to get its overall house in order, including wage and salary caps for players. It's our biggest expense. So, as regards regionalisation, one of our fellow directors sent us a message yesterday saying, you know, the first time I saw regionalisation was the clip from the newspaper that he sent me yesterday morning. There is no discussion whatsoever in the Football League about regionalisation. And I speak to various parties 2 or 3 times a week, including the EFL board itself. So I don't know where the regionalisation things come from. I don't believe in our day and age it's going to make a material difference to costs. And I don't believe, given what we're living through with COVID-19, that it's going to make a significant difference in terms of just straightforward travelling about. So I'd say it's a bit of a non-issue, Graham, to be honest.
Okay, well, one or two supporters have been in touch and put some questions. This is an interesting question as well that you can discuss, where it says, what's the club's forecasted financial impact of COVID-19, given likely the extension of the season? Games behind closed doors, an impact on transfer market. To what extent will this be threatened sustainably of the club? What is the club's plan to get through the next 12 months? If we can just look, first of all, at one of those points, behind closed doors football. What's your view on that, first of all, John?
Well, obviously, we don't want it. But if it has to be part of the recovery programme, then you've got to look at it sensibly, and we've got to look at being prepared to consider it sensibly. Nobody wants to play behind closed doors. But if, as I say, if it's part of a package, then we've got to be prepared to think constructively about it for as short a period as possible.
Could Alexander Charles cope with behind closed doors football? Can you manage it, or will you have to go on and manage it if you're told that?
Well, I mean, I mentioned earlier that we've made our plans as best we can through to the end of September, beginning of October, and that assumes that it'll be behind closed doors, and that's simply based on the guidance we get from the EFL and the noises we hear from government. So, as unpalatable as it is, behind closed doors has been our assumption for some time now, especially to finish this season and probably to start next season. And I wouldn't say we were in great shape, but I would say we certainly have a plan that we're comfortable with in order to get through the first phase of that.
It is a worry time. Everybody's worried about their own football club, and you're no different. Just without revealing too much, John, how would you describe what state Crewe are in financially at the moment, today, sort of thing? How are they? Obviously, you're trying to get some income, which has been well received by certain members and people coming with the season tickets, and some sponsors already showing interest. But how would you say you are financially?
Well, nobody's going to say financially, money coming out of the letterboxes, shall we say. No. But again, we, like any other business, we've looked for support through the furlough system and through the support we've had from the banks, and looking at the support from EFL. We believe we can take the club forward in this short time period. If we're not then able and financially to look at a longer period, well, then you've got again to look at your planning. But let me come back to where we started. We are committed to be a football league club. We're committed to youth development. We're committed to our future community programs that we've got, etc. We think our business model is a good model. we think that it can be funded. But we've got to be brave enough to question everything that we're doing, to see whether we could do it better or economically or whatever there may be. And until we get a bit more information, as Charles is pointing out, it's difficult to do that longer term planning. But and that's where we are today.
Just bringing you in, Charles, there's a lot of concern from the supporters that I've been getting messages from, and they're quite rightly, because it's been built over 30 odd years, what's been going on with the academy and how it's been run. It's all about, and I'm pretty sure you're right at the fore of it as well, protect that academy as much as you can.
Absolutely, and following on from what John said, I mean, we have just had, as you are very well aware, we've just had a significant reorganisation at the club. And with the new investors, new directors who've joined the board, most of whom you know, and you know what their motivation is the same, their motivation is the same, then keeping the basics as they've already been, investing in our local youth through the academy to play in our team and potentially to sell in the marketplace, both for the benefit of the players and the club, is the model we intend to stick with. And there's nothing. There's nothing particularly that we're going to do during the coronavirus to change that. I mean, the coronavirus might change all sorts of things, but until that happens, then the model is as John has said, and we're confident that that's the way this football club will survive, but more importantly, prosper.
It brings me right on to my next question. We're going to talk about June the 30th and contracts and all sorts of things in a moment or two's time. But I've been fortunate to be with you for a long, long time and had terrific times with that football club. And we've all gone through a little spell where things weren't quite right. And perhaps we were losing a little bit of our business plan that we always had. What I'm trying to get at is our own players. We used to keep them under contract and get them under contract for a long time, and we didn't have fears of losing them. And we probably lost that a few years ago. I've got a feeling now we're back on track in terms of keeping those younger players and getting them young players signed up, like we did last year, where we got a host of talented players to stay and pledge their future. Would you agree with that, John? Do you think that's something you've addressed now? And it's hard, I know, to get players signed up because of all sorts of things going on with agents and everything. But do you think you're back on track with that policy that you've always wanted?
Yes, I think there is a focus on that, a total focus on that. But as you said, it often gets to the stage with the discussions, players have agents, etc., etc. But again, David is doing a terrific job down there in the management, bringing the lads through. He's been in football. He talks to them about his experiences, and he I think gives them the confidence now that we had years ago with Dario on the basis of saying, look, trust me, you play a great part at this football club. We have to sell players in order to take our model forward. But, we'll be honest and talk to you about offers or whatever the case may be. Our job is for you to help us through and work us through, support the work in the first team. And we have a commitment to you that when the right offer comes along from the right football club, we'll talk sensibly with you. It's all, and I think you're right. I think we've had a period where perhaps we haven't been as tight on that and as focused on that. And that, in many ways, comes through the skills of the manager. Because Dave's with them all the time. Kenny Lunt is. They've all been down the road before them. And they are the people to talk the future. They're the people to talk football with.
Charles, let's bring you in on June the 30th. It's the end of that date of contracts. You talk and you're very, very close with the manager, as John is as well, and you're in contact with him daily. What do you think about contract situation that with this particular halt in the football industry?
Well, to be honest, Graham, John and I have done a lot of work with Dave and Kenny going back weeks and months. So we are well set for June the 30th, in the sense that that's the end of our football year and the end of the contractual year. We have all our plans in place in terms of the current squad and what we want to do. We've got plans for what we would like to do, assuming that football restarts and there is another season. I mean, we're working on the basis at the moment of finishing the season at the end of July, having a short close season and starting again sort of middle of September time. Now, given that's the case, our contractual position is pretty straightforward. The players that are out of contract are being approached. Their offers are being put together. The targets that we've got have been looked at. We're really waiting for, if you like, the football button to be pressed. I mean, Dave, Kenny, John Dillon, Alex have done a fantastic job on that. So it's business as usual, albeit the fact that at the minute there is no business whatsoever. We're all sitting at home talking to you on a video.
Just back to the season ticket sales, it's been terrific. You know, you must be delighted. There's a feeling, isn't there, that the club is on the right way. Everything's coming together. Unfortunately, we've stopped at the moment because of this horrible disease that's hit us. But for both of you, and you're speaking for your board and your fans, you're top of League Two. You are the top team in League Two. Your thoughts on that, John?
Well, delighted, and delighted particularly because it really, gives strength to the excellent work that, as Charles says, from Dave and Kenny and John Dillon, and the work that they have done. The rest of the people at Reece Heath, that's a rich reward for them, and a way of us being able to demonstrate that we're not far from being very much already into the policy and into the plans and taking those plans forward.
Well, Charles, we put a question to the manager earlier this week, just to get his views. I know you work very close to him, and, you become the vice chairman only a week or so ago. You must be privileged and honoured to be in that position, and, you want to hopefully see this particular season marked by you becoming the vice chairman and a promoted football club that you've followed for many years coming from the town.
Well, yes, on all fronts, I suppose. I mean, I'm obviously delighted to be vice chairman and to be able to help John and obviously the club, and particularly during these pretty challenging times. Whilst it's a delight, it's also very sad, of course, because until David's untimely death, he'd served as our vice chairman for a very long time. But at the end of the day, we all have the same objective, which is, if you like, to secure the long-term viability of this football club. And given that we can only do what we can only do, the virus will, the virus and government pronouncements of the virus will always trump what it is we're trying to do. Given that we have the steers and the directions that we've got, both from the EFL and from government, and you've got to bear in mind that the EFL talks to the Department for Culture and Media Sport every day of the week. So the EFL's not sort of standing there as a light on its own. It's doing it within the structure of governance, should we call it. Then, we've put our plans together. We've got our team. We've got our team on the pitch. Everybody's delighted with the top of the division. And hopefully both I, as the new vice chairman, and all the board, the new board, all the new investors, are looking forward to a better future on the football pitch than the recent past.
Well, while I've got you, and I'm sure Charles agrees as well, can we just say a very great thank you to all our supporters for all the encouragement that they're giving us, for the season tickets. People who have already buying this season's tickets, they will not be disadvantaged when we know what the program's going to be. And, you know, if we, all those who might hear what we've been talking about, please, we are a community club. We are run by local people for this community, and our supporters, even now with their position through Mark Bevan on the board, a very great thank you to everybody.